Danielle Pascente. Welcome to the show.
So excited to be here. I feel
I'm
like we had a
stoked.
full combo before this started, but
I know we did. We're 10 minutes in already. And I was like, well, we're kind of leaving everybody out here. We should probably let them
yeah, we
in.
should start recording.
And we happen to be wearing matching shirts today. So great
Yeah,
minds.
I'm just
Great
like cozy
minds.
in my sweatshirt vibes.
I love it. All right. I want to dive right in because we were just talking about it. So I want to continue the conversation selfishly. You just dropped a huge bomb on me that you are creating your own app after, I'm sure,
Yes.
years of people begging you to do it. So I want to talk transparently about what that's been like. But obviously, first tell us like who is it for? What's the content on the app?
Yeah, it is kind of a bomb to drop on you because like a year ago I was talking at your mastermind and you asked me, you said, do you ever feel like you're getting left behind with ebooks? Like this is kind of an ancient thing and I was like, no, it works. People still do it. And here I am, like, it works, but I kind of need to elevate and transform into the next version of me and my workouts and what I'm giving to people. And this was just the natural next step. So I knew eventually I'd get there. I just wasn't sure if it would be this quickly after I had actually said that to you.
You are
Uh,
the queen of fitness ebooks, though. Like when I think of you and your brand, you have been consistently selling ebooks, having success with ebooks, running challenges, fitness challenges with ebooks for like, I don't know, a decade.
I mean, yeah, it feels like that. Maybe
Yeah.
not a decade, but probably at least 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Like since
Um,
ebooks were cool when I
Yeah,
used to
since
sell
ebooks
them.
started, I feel like I dove in right then because I just wanted to be in the market at the beginning. And it's funny because with apps now I feel like I'm just, girl, you're getting in so late.
Do you
Like
feel
this is
behind?
the thing. So I feel like I could have jumped into that at the beginning too. But yeah, ebooks have been great for me. And to be honest, like we were talking before we got on, I was saying that I still want to sell them on my website, even when I launch the app, because there are customers that still appreciate that way of digesting workouts.
Yeah.
And so for that, and not to mention the work that went into all of
I
them,
know.
you'd hate for that to just evergreen go away. Like why?
Would
If
you,
someone's buying them.
do you think you would change the price point of the ebooks?
I don't think so
Yeah.
because they're so well priced and so cheap as it is that
Yeah.
like I think they're a representation of the work that was put in. I don't want to downgrade their price because I still think that's what they're worth. But will I be pushing them as much? No.
Okay.
They'll be there
Yeah.
because I think it's such a body of work, but it's going to be soon it will be the app because that will be the thing that I'm constantly updating and that will be more up to date. So
Yeah.
the app, to go back to your question, it's for the same kind of community I've been training all these years. So women primarily, and it's going to cater to those quick workouts like 20 to 30-minute strength and HIIT workouts, a mix between both. And it'll be a hub where they can go and pick and choose the type of workouts that they want to do. And if they want the option to train with me, meaning I'm going to do the full length live style workout where I'm cueing, where I'm doing the workout, talking, music behind, etc. And then the goal, though I can't speak to if this will happen yet,
Mhm.
I'm happy to share the process because that's part of what I do. Like even the ugly parts of the process I'll share. And this is kind of a tricky thing to figure out, but I want the best of both worlds where there can be a moves library where I basically just plug and play like an ebook where it's like, here's circuit one. You can watch me do the exercise quickly. And then they could basically just take it, screenshot it, and go do it on their own. And the reason for me wanting that is because coming from all my ebook customers, they're going to know that format pretty good. So
Yeah.
it's kind of mimicky of an ebook, but not quite. Now, customers that have found me in the last couple of years on another app or me doing live streaming workouts during the pandemic, etc., and they want that video format, that's going to be for them. So I want the best of both worlds on an app. I also want to launch with a solid library.
Yep.
And so that's what makes this tricky is many people would say to me, Danielle, you have a body of work. You have hundreds of workouts that you've shot and filmed. Use those. And to that, I say, I could do that. But to the creative and perfectionist in me, I kind of want to start on this clean slate where I can really build what I want, but also for it to reflect the current state of where I'm at in my life and where I'm at with my training narratives and how I coach people. Because
Yeah.
7 years ago me is not the same as today me. So the hard part about building this app right now is that I feel like I'm freaking starting from scratch. After a decade plus in the industry, I feel like I'm starting from scratch, and it's super freaking humbling. And here we are.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have to tell you, you don't have to have the whole library done to get it rocking and rolling, but I totally understand too, like where you were 7 years ago. I mean, you were with Matt, but probably just dating, living in an apartment in California. This is pre being a mom, like
Yeah.
pre-pandemic when the entire world changed and how we all consume. This is at the start of some of the social media platforms when they were really just starting to grow, influencer marketing. So yeah, it's of course it's going to be so different. What are some of the biggest challenges that you've run into already with the app?
I think it's hard to find companies and developers that have both formats.
Yeah.
Like we stream and we also can build you a library of moves. It's tricky. And then you also have to keep your margins in mind. You have to keep your budget in mind. How much are you willing to spend on this when you don't even know how much you're going to make on it?
Yeah.
And then you have the companies that are willing to do it all for you, but they're going to take some of your revenue. And so you
Mhm.
have to weigh out. I think weighing out the options is the hardest part. Me filming the workouts, me creating a library, that's like I could do it in my sleep. You know what I mean? Like that's my wheelhouse. But making decisions, like the decision fatigue is real when it comes to the app. The financial aspect of it is
Yeah.
real when you're really thinking about margins and like who's going to buy it, and will all these people that bought ebooks come right over to the app, or will I need to convince them? Like all that goes into the margins and how much you're spending up front. So I think the tricky part right now isn't necessarily in the tech, which I'm sure this will be an issue down the line and I could share more then, but it's more of like the decision making and really kind of making decisions based on what you want,
Yeah.
and then executing that plan under a timeline.
Yeah.
And that's what's hard too, is like you could have a launch date in mind. We were talking spring, and right now I think with the to-do list there's no freaking way it'll be
Yeah.
ready for the spring. So having to be open-minded about a launch date is something that is foreign to me. I have 2 launches per year. They're super well-oiled machines. It is no thought. It's not easy, but it's like easy sort of.
Yeah.
This is just, it's a
So
lot to
new.
think we maybe won't even have an app in the spring. And then guess what? Then we don't have a spring challenge because I told people we were done doing ebooks. So then do I go back and be like, JK, we're going to do one last ebook because we're not ready to launch? These are the things from a business perspective that's tricky because it feels like foreign territory for us. Like we've always been kind of on top of it, but this feels like an open-ended launch. And I'm okay with that because when you're creating something big, it takes time and good things take time. And I
Yeah.
keep telling myself that.
Yeah. So I want to stay for a second on this decision fatigue thing
Mhm.
because I think we all go through this. And I say it all the time. I actually just did a post, I think yesterday. I'm the biggest bottleneck in the business. And one of the reasons
Mhm.
I'm the biggest bottleneck is generally because of decisions. It's like, well,
Oh,
I just haven't made the final decision. I'm just not sure. I need to sleep on it. I need to feel into it. I need more market research. I want to talk to more clients. And so I become the biggest bottleneck. So while we're recording this episode, it's the beginning of January. We're in I guess, technically the second week in January, and people are already beating themselves up, feeling behind, falling off track of their goals and resolutions and all of that. And a huge part of it is the decision fatigue. And I've had so many conversations in the past couple of weeks with gals that are interested in our elite mastermind. And they're literally playing that game of let me meditate on it.
yeah.
Let me shaman bless myself. Let me like sit in a bath of rose petals. Let me. And a week or 2 or 3 will go by. And at that point, I'm like, it doesn't even matter if it's my mastermind or not. I just need you to make a decision because the indecision is eating you alive. What are some tactical, if you have any, things that you do to make decisions or make them faster? Because we both know that the successful people that we see are literally just taking action faster and making decisions quicker.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of just said it in that last statement, but it's like the quicker I can take action, the quicker things get done. So it's like if I sit on a decision for a long time, I'm stalling the process. And if my biggest concern is this isn't going to launch on time, guess who's preventing it from launching? Me. I am. I am. It's me. Hi. I'm the problem. It's me. So that in and of itself is the taking action and the doing things. It does help with more action because what I would say to the person deciding on a mastermind is I would say, once you sign up, once you put that deposit down, once you pay that money, you're in it. Like you're in it. So that's when you can start going and creating. For me, when I stall on my decisions, I cannot be in my zone of genius, which is creating workouts,
Yep.
creating programs, doing the programming, shooting the workouts. I can't be in my zone of genius if I have this decision over here weighing on me.
But Danielle, what if I make the wrong decision?
Then you stumble and you learn because guess what? That's another thing is I can't expect this to go seamlessly because I haven't done it before.
Yep.
So I am purposely signing myself up for failure with this decision. If I didn't want failure, I'd keep making ebooks and making the exact income I probably make every year. It's super predictable. It's comfortable.
And there's nothing wrong with that for certain seasons
Nothing wrong
of
with that.
life and people, right? Like I'm sure when you were pregnant, that
Oh,
was not the year to be like, yeah, let's try all these new things. It was probably like, let's
100%.
just repeat what we know works.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's also a great point to pivot into that where you're at in your life and the chapter that you're at in your life may not allow you to make the scary step decision. And to that, I say, stay in the comfortability. I stayed in the comfortability for years because, again, I was pregnant, I was having my first child, and I wanted things to look different. But now she's almost 2, we're in a little bit of a rhythm, and I'm like, let's go. I'm like,
Yeah.
let's take that crazy step. But it's not to say that it's linear, and there are a lot of decisions along the way that have to be made. And I think the biggest thing I tell someone is just take the action quickly,
Yeah.
because the quicker you take it, the more you can get to the place that you're actually trying to be. Because a lot of times the decision isn't the place you're trying to be, it's just a stepping stone to get
Yeah.
there.
I can't help but think of like, I've done this. I know everybody listening has done this. You, I'm not sure. You're like an anomaly, but everybody else listening has done this.
Let's
You're
hear it.
thinking about the workout and you're just thinking about it and you're like, I really should do it, but I don't really want to. I'm not really in the mood. Oh my God, it's so cold. I want to stay in bed. And the amount of 15 or 20 minutes that you do the thinking and the procrastinating of the decision that you're not making, your workout specifically, like DP Fit Crew, a lot of them are 20 minutes. You literally could have been done with the workout already.
Yep. Yep.
Right?
Yeah. And I do also struggle with that.
Okay, good. She's
I know
human.
you think I don't because I really like to work out, but I have my days where it's like, but I just put the shoes on, put the clothes on, go. It's
Yeah.
kind of my same rule of thumb.
Right.
Friggin' go, go,
Exactly.
go.
But that's it. And it's like the more that you show up and just make the decision, the more that you go and take action, the more comfortable and confident you feel because you
Yeah.
have that number one, integrity with yourself, which is honoring your word that you were going to do something. And then number two, generally there is an end result. And the result might not be one workout, I lost 10 pounds. That might not even be the goal, but it's like, now I feel better. I'm more energized. My head is clear, right?
Yeah.
It's like, there's things that happen no different in business. I did the live. Oh my God, no one came on and joined, but I did it and I didn't die. My
Yeah.
platform didn't explode. Like Zucks didn't shut me down. And it's like those tiny little steps just create that confidence, that momentum, because we can't just wait to be inspired and have that motivation. Like
No.
it's super fickle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. And thinking about the after, just like you would a workout, it's like, how am I going to feel after this? I always think about decision fatigue as like, how are you going to feel when this decision is just made and off your brain?
Yeah. It's
Will
such
you
a
be
weight
able
off your
to
shoulders.
sleep better?
Yeah.
Will you be able to actually go do the workout you want to do? Will you be able to answer some of your text messages? Like, because decisions are paralyzing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So motion is what needs to happen.
Yeah. So I've done many of your challenges and trainings. I've bought your ebooks before. I've followed you for so many years online before we became friends. And I do love, love, love the fact that all of your workouts generally are really short. They're really efficient. would be the word that I would think. And of course you could take the time that you need, but you also always have offered, you don't need equipment. You don't need to be at the gym. You don't need an hour. Is that something that you fell into as a trainer? Was that something that you grew up with in sports? Like, how did that sort of become? Because when I think you, that's what I think of. That's your niche to me. It's like this micro niche of quick, effective. It could be at home. It could be in the gym, but it's just like down and dirty. We're going to get it done.
Yeah, I feel like I actually grew into that as a trainer. So the narrative didn't used to be that. The narrative was I was a 20-something-year-old in LA with a shit ton of time on my hands. And I had hours to spend at the gym. I'm sure you went through that phase too, where it's like I could dilly around at the gym for 3 hours. And in my brain, the more I was there, the more calories I was burning. And the more I was there, the more I could eat. Like really just toxic messaging and narratives that I used to believe as a trainer. And also coming from an athletic background, I spent 5 hours at gymnastics practice. I spent 2 hours at swim practice. Like I was working out for hours on end. So coming from that narrative into this new narrative of like, whoa, that's not the average person's want
Yeah.
to spend hours at a gym. And it wasn't until I started coaching women and hearing their stories and hearing the chapters of life that they were in that I started to understand, like, you can't have that messaging of you got to spend 2 hours at the gym. Like, that's not good.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, when I became a mother, was pregnant, opened my business, which was years prior to that. I mean, literally the last 7 years, I've been in a phase of my life where I do not have time for 2-hour workouts anymore. Like, this is not a joke. So I've had to shift into shorter ones. And I think confronting the biggest fear for a lot of people is if I switch to shorter workouts, I won't be as fit. If I switch to shorter workouts, I won't be as strong. If I switch to shorter workouts, I'm going to be blank, insert negative thing. And I wanted to show people that you could do short workouts, that you could be efficient, that you didn't have to spend all day doing it, that you could show yourself grace, that you could modify, and you could still live a consistently, I don't want to say the word healthy because I think it could have so many connotations, but you could live a consistent movement-based life where you're
Yeah.
doing something good for your body. And so the narrative has really shifted for me in 7 years. So my brand wasn't always like that, but it is now, especially in the motherhood chapter of being super strapped for time, not motivated, sleep deprived, whatever you deal with when you're becoming a first-time mom has also made me shift perspective. So I feel like I have this almost credibility, if you will, to speak to people's exact experiences, especially when it comes to my mom community, because there's a lot of moms in my communities with multiple kids, and I just
Yeah.
could never understand what their life was like, you know?
Yeah.
I could try,
Yeah.
but you almost just don't know till you're in it, and that's something I've learned. So I think my brand has grown and evolved into those quick, efficient workouts, down and dirty. You can do them from home. You can do them during nap time. Like, just something to give people to do that's a structure and a plan, but that isn't not feasible, you know?
Yeah. When I think about you and you as a person, you as a brand, you on social media, your workouts, the word that I just like see in neon letters over you is approachable.
Oh, I
Like
like that.
you are so approachable, but then everything that you offer, like tiny little tips, quick little workouts, easy at home, you're on a vacation. It's like, it's so approachable. Everything
Mhm.
about your brand is approachable. And I edify you for that because that is not an easy thing to do nowadays when people are trying to be so authentic on the internet and stuff. And
Yeah.
you just are. So I really, really appreciate
Thank you for saying that.
appreciate that about you. Yeah.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Oh my
I
gosh.
feel like I think it's been such a growing process because I don't think that probably used to be the word people would think of. I think they would think just like hardcore athlete,
Mm,
hardcore coach, Jillian Michaels type.
yeah.
And it couldn't be further from like the opposite of that at this
Yeah.
point in my life. Like I want people to feel included. I want people to feel like I'm talking to them, not at them, and that we're learning together and that fitness is approachable, you know?
Yeah. Well, you do. I mean, even showing up on stories with like spit up on your shirt or whatever, you've always been super approachable. I remember
Okay.
right when you had Kennedy, you were doing like cold plunge, for lack of a better term. Really, you were just like icing your vagina in your pool.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Literally
Literally.
7 days after I had her, and I was like shell shocked, like, what the F just happened? Nobody warned me about this. I'm like in my pool, like icing my vag.
Yep.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you know,
We love it though. We love it.
people need to see more real things on social media because
They
I
really
also
do.
was like, wait, where are all the moms sharing what really happens postpartum? I was in this cloud of being like, there's got to be accounts for this, right? Like all I'm seeing is these motherhood accounts with like perfect houses, like rocking they're shushing their babies, and I'm like, my whole life is in chaos. It's in turmoil. I'm icing my vagina. I can't poop. Like my baby is screaming. I'm up all night.
Yeah. Yeah. And running the
I
business.
and running a business.
Did you
It's
take a
horrible.
full maternity leave or not
I
even?
did, but she came 3.5 weeks early, so I wasn't finished with the challenge.
Ah,
So I went off my due date, which was mistake number one, but also again, things that you don't know. So we weren't wrapped up with business yet when we had her. So that was challenging because like I came home from the hospital and I also still had to do email sequences, upsells, like, all those
yeah.
things. It was just nuts. But if I did it again, I would take a much longer, not that I will be doing it again, but if I did, I would take a much longer maternity leave, just knowing that how much is involved
Yeah.
postpartum.
How
Yeah.
much did you take? How much time did you actually take off?
So from due date onward, we actually had about 3 months,
Oh, that's nice.
which is
That's
like
really
a good
nice.
chunk
Yeah.
of change. But
But
we
I'm,
were working up till the due date, and then she came
yeah.
early. So like,
And you work with your husband.
yeah.
So I'm curious to talk about this for a second. I want to get into the husband thing because people ask Mike and I all the time, like, what's it really like working together?
Yeah.
For us, we've gone against the grain where like we don't believe in date nights. Like it doesn't work for us. Like I don't compartmentalize. We have gotten to a place in our lives and our business where it's like, if one of us wants to tap out and we're at dinner and like, I don't want to talk about the business, it's just, hey, babe, I really don't want to talk about the business right now. Can you honor that? And it's like, cool, not going to push back. Like, well, do you want to unpack that? What's going on? It's like
Yeah.
just honoring the communication. But for us, it's all one and the same. Like we live and breathe our life. We live and breathe our business. Our business funds our life. Our life funds our business. And so
Yeah.
for us, it's kind of all one and the same. So I'm really curious because I know here in our home, it's like, even if you try to take a day off and unplug, if the other person's working, it's like really hard to like not hear what's going on, or if he's like on a team meeting or something. So when you were on maternity leave, did Matt really take paternity leave with you?
Yes, because there's actually not much that Matt does in the business unless I'm working,
Gotcha.
unless I have something for him. And so both of us had to finish that challenge. But now, I think this question better applies to now. His role in me running the business is being dad.
Got it.
And that was a stark change because we didn't discuss it
Mm,
prior to having a kid. I think we thought roles stayed the same. We're both going to work. We're going to be working parents from home with our child. Anyone who's a mom is literally laughing out loud right now as I say this because I'm laughing out loud at the thought of it. That's just what we thought. Like
yeah.
we thought we could do it all. And it turns out you can't do it all. Like one parent needs to be on it unless you have your kid with childcare, which everyone's decisions, I am not saying one way or the other is good. I'm just saying for us, we didn't want to put her in daycare. So what it required of us was that Matt is a full-time stay-at-home dad parent while I run the business. And I've had to
Gotcha.
since hire out for some of his tasks because this is just what we want.
Yep.
And this time in her life at this age is temporary. And we keep going back to that. This is not the time to focus on us. This is not the time to focus on date nights. Do I think you need to throw your relationship in the trash while you have kids? No, but it inevitably happens because honestly, you're trying to keep a tiny being breathing, living, healthy, growing, period. Until she's at the age where she's self-sufficient. That's just what it is. And so over time, we've come to learn that like this time is temporary. These are kind of the roles they have shifted. And by the way, this was messy. Like the
Yeah.
way that I'm posing it to you, is such that there was a lot that happened behind the scenes where it was just like so difficult because we're transitioning into these new people. We're like shedding layers of ourselves coming into parenthood and getting new roles all the time, every day. And like, it's super hard on a marriage. And then tack on the business, the fact that we were always business partners, doing our thing, celebrating launches, going on vacations. And now it's like cut. It was just cut out of
Yeah.
thin air. So we've had to like re-navigate that, and I know that dove so much deeper than you wanted, but it's like even
No,
more
it's great.
so once we had Kennedy, like we really had to re-establish what that looked like, because also being a mom working from home, if you're a mom and you have a small child, baby, toddler, it is very difficult to work from home and get done what you need to get done because you hear everything.
Mm.
And as a mom, that pulls you into 5 different directions all the time, whether they're crying, having a tantrum, dad's not doing the trick today, they want mom, like you are constantly being pulled into multiple directions. And I no longer can go to Matt anymore and say, I need you to do this because he's taking care of our daughter.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so it's tricky. It's super tricky, but
Have
we're
you
getting to a better place with it. It's just hard.
Yeah, well, I'm sure like anything, it's new and it's taking practice. And then, of course, life throws you curveballs where it's like, well, that's actually not the schedule anymore. Or she needs you for this now instead of that. And as she
Mm.
evolves and grows, it's your role is going to continuously change.
Yeah.
Have you gotten into a flow with your own schedule where in a dream world, I'm sure it works, where it's like, okay, from this time to this time on this day, I'm doing like
Mhm.
computer work. Like, do you try to follow a schedule or is it just all hell breaks loose and you're on?
You know, I would say year 1. So from month 1 to month 12 with a newborn, um, no, no
No
schedule.
schedule.
It was an absolute shit show, for lack of a better word. After that year, I promised myself, like, okay, you gotta kind of find some sort of rhythm. So 2023 was really focused on once she turned a year old, which was in March, late March. It was focused on coming back to me, coming back to my schedule. Things are a little more predictable, still not predictable, but sort of. And coming back into how can you integrate yourself back into work and really get a schedule that feels good to you, but also spend time with your daughter and prioritize and blah, blah, blah. So that was this year. And then coming into 2024, even more so routine. There's other challenges, but they're more manageable than that first year, in my opinion. And so I am able to like leave the house and dip out for a few hours and just be like, I need that focus time. Then I can come back and be super present for her. But if I'm here and I'm listening and I'm hearing, it's like I want to be a part of that. Or sometimes I want to just jump in and help because mom guilt is a real thing.
Yep.
And if I want to go the places that I'm going in 2024, I have to work out of the house sometimes. And
Yeah.
so 2 years postpartum, basically, I've finally come into a place saying like, all right, we can find our business rhythm again. And I think that's okay. Like when you become a mom, all bets are off. You don't know how you're going to be. You don't know what you're going to want. You don't know anything. You could say before you have kids, this is how I'm going to be. I said that about everything. And then you become a mom and you're like, JK, this is how I'm going to be.
Yeah. Just kidding. Take the
So
iPad.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm like, she will never watch TV. I'm like, here you go, girl. I'm about to lose my mind. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just funny.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is
And
this,
I was gonna say I also was before I had her was like, we'll put her in daycare.
yeah.
Don't care. Then all of a sudden I had her and I was like, nah, I want her. I
Yeah.
want to take care of her. So it's just crazy how it changes. But
Yeah. Well, I think you said before well, you mentioned mom guilt, but it's like removing the pressure and the shame and all these things that we put on ourselves where it's like, even when you were talking about the launch date of the app, it's like being okay. Expectations equal your experience. And so if we can release the expectations of what we think it's going to be, at least how it actually goes and how you respond to that might feel a little bit lighter.
yeah.
When you're talking about all these things, have you just really learned trial by fire, or are there certain books, podcasts, or people that you've listened to that have really helped you through the motherhood and business building?
I think for motherhood, it's actually been a series of getting to know other moms,
Yeah.
whether it had been a friend of mine that I just didn't understand the depths that I then reached back out to. I was like, so sorry. I wasn't there for you, but also like I need you right now. I'm being swallowed whole. So it's tapping into the mom market for me, whether it had been like the content I was digesting on Instagram or TikTok or wherever, and also just my friends that had kids.
Yeah.
I think when you become a mom, you need that support more than anything. And then from a business aspect, like I still am inspired by creators and I'm still very networked with individuals that are similar. So I think we're coming into a day and age where people just want to help people. As a mom, I want to help other moms. As a business person, I'm happy to shed light on any business things people have. And I think collectively it's becoming that. So I think it's easy to ask people questions like business questions. I think it's easy to kind of have masterminds and things like that where you can learn new things and be open to that. So I think I get my information from a lot of different places,
Yeah.
but knowing what I'm looking for helps.
Yeah.
So
We have so many people in our community that are trying to become parents or recently becoming parents, which is interesting because my community is slightly older, like me. I
yeah,
mean, people in my community, we're all generally around 40.
yeah,
And it's so prevalent. In our mastermind last year, we had 4 girls get pregnant throughout the year. I mean, that was like a third of the group. So I
yeah.
just know this conversation is so powerful. Something that you talk about a lot with movement. So we have obviously exercise and movement, we've got nutrition, and those things together are super beneficial for mental health. And something you do talk about is mental health. So I'm just curious if you would share at all what it looked like for you postpartum, how maybe your mental health, where was that at? How did you feel? Because as a trainer, I used to be one for 18 years,
Yeah.
there's an unwritten pressure a lot of us put on ourselves to look a certain way. You're always doing workouts in sports bras, you're known for your abs, like all these different things. So I'm curious, just in both having the baby, your body changing, the pressure to look a certain way, being on these apps, how has your mental health been?
So I think just the process of becoming pregnant as a trainer and postpartum and all that it's such a journey mentally just because that is your life or has been your life, whether it was the fact that I was an athlete from the time I was 6 years old until I then became a trainer and filmed programs for people. It's like that's been my life. So I knew that there would be some mental change there as I went through that process. But luckily, prior to getting pregnant, I already went through a mental shift in the way that I viewed exercise. Whereas 8 years ago, me might have been really unhealthy. Like, I'm working out to burn off the food I ate, or like just coming from those really toxic narratives. I had already healed my relationship with food and healed my relationship with how I view exercise prior to getting pregnant. And if I hadn't done that, I think pregnancy would have been a wild time, like
Yeah.
I just mentally it would have been hard because pregnancy is already hard. You
Yeah.
already have your hormones raging, your entire body's changing, your entire mindset shifting. There's like hormones you didn't even know existed just pumping through your whole body, like making you wild. So it's that part of it is a journey, but I had healed that kind of toxic mentality prior to getting pregnant. And then pregnancy was something that I really enjoyed because I enjoyed learning about what was going on with my body and sharing it with others and empowering women to work out while they were pregnant. Like it doesn't have to be this ancient narrative that you can't do anything
Yeah.
unless you have underlying issues and you're
Wait,
being
can we stay on this?
oh yeah.
So a lot of the trainers that I follow that I still am friends with, that I used to work with, and yourself, worked out through pregnancy. They
Yeah.
all worked out before pregnancy. And some of them get a lot of shit on the internet because
Oh
they're,
yeah.
deadlifting 200 pounds while 8 months pregnant. And the comments of just like, my doctor told me I'm not allowed to lift more than a gallon of water. But then you see the other side of it where like you're literally entering the most challenging physically challenging time of your life. Don't you want to be in peak performance? So I know where you stand, obviously,
Yeah.
but I'm just curious if you could talk about like, did you get any pushback or hate for working
Yeah.
out and like lifting too much or running too fast? And then how do you sort of navigate that? Because there are two sides of the story here. Like there's two sides of the coin because they really do. You look at the articles and they're like, you just have to take it easy and you can only do yoga and don't lift more than a gallon of water. And it's like, what? My baby's more than a
Yeah.
gallon of water.
No, I know. And I think what's happening is there's this new wave of research that actually supports working out. while being pregnant. Whereas we're coming off of years and years and years and years of research telling us you should only lift a little bit, if at all. You should be on bed rest. You shouldn't get your heart rate up, blah, 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 blah. So the new wave of research is not large enough to equate to all the other years. So what's happening is we're coming to this new wave, and probably 20 years down the line, we're going to have plenty of research to support women being able to lift and continue doing workouts and movement as they like, so long as there's no underlying issues. But the problem lies within doctors and OBGYNs coming from the mindset and research of the past and not allowing for the new to show up. And so what you're getting is doctors that are just used to saying a specific thing, and that's what they're going to go with. That's
Yeah.
what they're going to go with. So it's not like doctor versus trainer by any means
Right.
at all, but I think that's what the internet wants it to be. So what's happening is just women will post their workouts, like trainers and stuff like that, and people will just climb in from a
Yeah.
doctor perspective or from an old age way of thinking, where it's like, we have new research to support these things. And for all
Right.
intents and purposes, you're about to be lifting your child, twisting your child, lowering them into the crib, deadlift, rowing, pressing. So what
Right.
makes you think you're just going to be able to do that cold turkey?
Right.
Right? So why wouldn't you? Why
Right.
wouldn't you prep for that? And this isn't, I always say this, I'm like, people that are pregnant don't have to be heroes. I'm not telling you to go out and run a marathon that year, or like lift your heaviest PR and like try to put plates on a barbell.
Yeah.
No, I'm simply saying, what did you do for movement before? Okay, you're safe to do that unless it doesn't feel good,
Right.
or unless your OBGYN for some reason or another says, hey, you're throwing up all day long. You can't work out, or you have an underlying issue here. We need you to be on bed rest. Unless they're saying that, you can. And that's
Yeah.
the reality of it. It's just, it really is cut and dry. Now, there's a lot of nuances, of course, with how your pregnancy could go. There's a lot of nuances with the things that you should or shouldn't be doing, whether it comes to heart rate or heat, or working out in a heated
Right.
environment, or lifting something over your head that's a certain amount of weight. Once you start to have your pelvic floor basically develops more, and the weight is in the forward part of your body. So there's certain movements that aren't going to feel right. These are the nuances I'm talking about. But when it comes to a generalized,
Yeah.
here you can move your body, you should be able to do that if you're cleared to.
Yeah. We had, I haven't shared it yet. We had a loss recently. And when I was in my first few weeks, I was doing my workouts and I had gotten into a conversation with someone in real life, not on the internet. And she just was pushing back on how, like, yeah, but when you work out, you're causing a cortisol spike, which is true.
True.
And cortisol is the stress hormone, which is true.
True.
And she was just talking about how awful it was and how I was, doing such a disservice to this embryo at the time, by doing that, by raising the cortisol, and how dangerous it was. But then there's also like, yeah, and coming from someone who does work out every day, and it is a huge part of my mental health routine, like
Yeah.
I can't just be sitting around not doing anything. And it doesn't mean like you said, I'm not PRing, I don't need to put plates on the bar, but it's like to get some movement in, to do something to make myself feel better and stronger and healthier, and to raise my heart rate a little bit, and to make sure that I'm like keeping up with my cardiovascular and all these different things. Right. And it was just an interesting conversation where at the end of it, it finally was like, all right, we'll just agree to disagree, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I hear you. Cortisol is a stress hormone, but like,
It's also tough to bring that into a conversation with someone who's experienced loss like you have, because you're essentially like, oh, so you're saying like, this is my fault, like putting fault on, I shouldn't be doing this because, but it isn't linear, because cortisol, though, yes, we're talking about stress spiking, cortisol isn't created equal. So you'll have cortisol spikes that are bad and cortisol spikes that are good.
right.
If exercise makes you feel good, it is a cortisol spike. It is a cortisol stress spike, if you want to say it generally. But when I work out and have a cortisol spike versus when my baby is screaming, crying, and I have a cortisol spike, these are two different types.
Yeah.
One makes me feel good, one makes me feel like shit. They're not It's
Yeah.
not linear like that. And it's also not linear like that with loss. And I'm sorry that you had to experience that conversation, because at the end of the day, you're being advised by a doctor. People's opinions outside of that likely come from either A, their own trauma, B, maybe they're researched, which is valid. But at the end of the day, like, there's so many cooks in the kitchen,
Yeah.
and you're going through something that's not only like emotionally taxing, but physically taxing on your body as well, to go through it and then now not, and then go through it again. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So finding your happy and joyful things, so long as your doctor's like cool with that,
Right.
that should be what matters.
Yeah. You said before that
So,
you did experience some people kind of coming at you or pushing back while you were working out pregnant. Was it
yeah.
something that you were like inundated with, or was it just a few comments?
Um, I would say it was like consistent inundation, but the same people.
Okay.
It was the same accounts,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you could tell how they felt.
Did you take it privately and like DM them, have conversations? Would you just comment back on a post, or did you just ignore?
Sometimes it depends my mood. Sometimes I like to be sassy, and other times I'm like, I don't have time for this. Uh,
Yeah.
but I think for me, like, because keeping the stress low during pregnancy, like, that wasn't helping anything. So I
Yeah.
just wouldn't engage. And all I kept coming back to was I can only educate people, and I can only like feel good myself. So if things didn't feel good, I was the first one to come on Instagram and be like, all of a sudden running started hurting this week. And instead of me being like, but I'm a runner, and so I'm going to keep running because that's what I do, I was like, I'm going to listen to my body and stop, because
Yeah.
I have pubic bone pain when I run. This is a decision I'm making. This is why I'm making it. Did that stop me from doing HIIT training? No, because that didn't hurt.
Yeah.
Like, point blank period. It did not hurt. But it's like I shared most of the journey pretty openly, so people could see what I was doing, people could see what I was modifying along the way, people could see like the safety precautions I was taking, if any. But there's always gonna be the people that feel a certain way, and you cannot convince them otherwise. And that's with everything on the internet. It doesn't matter if I said I like apples, someone would be like, did you know that apples suck? Like, it doesn't matter what it is. And so pregnancy for a lot of people is just, it's an easy argument. It's
Yeah.
a super easy argument for people to try to make, especially if they are from an older generation
Yep.
that grew up in the generation of moms not moms being on bed rest, moms
Yeah.
not working out.
I got to be honest. If I knew that you liked apples, I wouldn't have had you on the podcast.
Gosh, cancel me now.
All right. We are coming up to an hour, which is crazy. So are you good for some rapid fire questions?
Yeah, let's
Cool.
do it.
Before we get into them, where can people find you? Where can they learn about the app? Where can they maybe purchase an ebook on your on your website now that you're not necessarily doing
Yeah,
those
go
challenges?
buy an
What do
ebook,
you got
support
going
my
on?
expenses, please. Yeah, they can, or everything's on my website, www.daniellepascente.com, and then on Instagram at Danielle Pascente. Those are the two places that I primarily share.
Amazing. All right. You ready?
Yes, I
Are
don't
you
know.
currently reading or listening to anything like podcast book?
What did I just, oh my gosh, I just started something. Wow, the rapid fire is going to turn into me thinking. Uh, oh my gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. The Art of War.
Yeah.
Does
Okay.
that sound right?
Yeah.
Or the
There's
War of
two.
Art?
There's
Or the
both.
Art of War?
They're both of them actually. So it's one of those. Okay,
It's
great.
one of those,
I
but
love
it's
that.
been really good. And then I've been reading that Habits book by Jane. I want to say it's Jane.
Clear.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
about, it just talks about daily habits.
Yeah.
I'm the worst with titles, clearly. So
No,
here
you
we
did
are.
a great job.
Yeah.
It's perfect. I loved it. What's a guilty pleasure?
Watching reality TV.
Ooh, which one?
Housewives.
Which one?
Beverly Hills. I love how you're like, which one? Which? I'm like an OG Beverly Hills OC kind of gal.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What's one thing that people get wrong about you?
Gosh. I think people think that I got everything handed to me because I lived in LA and I rubbed shoulders with the right people. And I couldn't think that's further from the truth. Like, I had to work really hard to
Yeah.
get to where I am. And so I think sometimes that's misunderstood if you really kind of like go back in the archives.
Yeah.
But
We
I
didn't even
think,
talk about the reality show that you were on.
yeah, I know. And I think, and I just think like things in Hollywood are so misunderstood and things in
Yeah.
LA are so misunderstood. And so it's all kind of smoke and mirrors. But I think when I started to unveil the realities of like life behind the scenes is when people were like, oh, she's more approachable and relatable. And so I think there's just a lot of noise on the internet. I think people are quick to assume like, oh, she's just lucky. She has money. She got this handed to her. It's like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
I worked for it.
Yeah. 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 You absolutely have. I've seen so much of it. If you were to give a TED talk on nothing that you're known for, what would it be?
Nothing that I'm known for.
Yeah.
So it has to be something else. Well, in
Yeah.
that case, probably like this is gonna sound morbid, but like criminal justice, murders, like solving
Cool.
murder cases.
Is that what you do in your
I'm a
free
crime
time?
junkie. Yeah, this is what I do in my free time.
Do you listen
I
to
always
those
said
murder
if I wasn't a
podcasts?
trainer, I would be like a criminal investigator.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm so glad I asked this
super
question.
interesting to me.
Yeah, I actually was obsessed for years with CSI and like all
Yes.
those shows. Obsessed.
That's me. Like, if I'm not watching the junk because it's easy and mindless and I can also be working, I'm watching like the latest forensic files or 2020, like that kind of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. All right, we've got two questions left. Number one is our $50,000 question. So if I were to cut you a check for 50K tomorrow, you had to use it in or on your business. You could split it up or use it in one lump sum. How would you invest it?
Into the app, actually. Thank
Oh,
you. Are you offering? Would you mind making this a reality? Yeah, definitely into the app. There's a lot
yeah.
of app expenses as you start to create a digital platform. So that would be an easy answer into
Yeah.
that.
Is it mostly like engineer software stuff that you'd be paying for? Or is it
Tech,
marketing?
yeah,
Yeah,
like
tech.
tech, behind the scenes of tech, especially if you're not the one doing it, like you've got
Yeah.
to hire out. So
Yeah. And then our last question, which we kind of touched on today, is this whole evolution thing, right? So we named the company Digital Business Evolution
Mhm.
because I believe you're always evolving and growing. And as you do, so does your business. So what is your next personal or business evolution? And you can't say the app because we know that.
Mm. Uh, I just want to come to a place in my life where I'm not in a hustle state.
Yeah.
Like, I've done that a lot. So I think as a mom, I want to evolve into the place where, yes, I am a working mother. Yes, I'm an entrepreneur, a badass. I provide for my family. Yes, to all these things. But also, I can enjoy this life with my daughter and I can give her the best version of me as a mom. And I can also like hop on a plane the next day and go do the freaking things I need to do in 48 hours, come back and spend time with her. Like, I just want to get to the point in my business where it does run itself and I can still keep creating and innovating because that's just part of my DNA. But I can also just really enjoy this phase of life I'm in with a child. It is like no other. And you wouldn't even be able to put that into words until like you experience it, but it just makes you shift your priorities.
Yeah. I love it. That's one of the things I wanted to talk about, which we didn't even get into today. So we might just have to have you back on so we could talk about the priorities. We
Thank
could talk about
you.
CSI.
Oh, girl, I could go on a crime pod. I should have just told you all the crime podcasts I listen to on
So you
my.
do listen to those.
Yeah, I just went to
That's
dinner with Lori Harder,
yeah.
Jenna Kutcher, and Katrina Scott, and everyone was like, "Share what you're listening to or reading," and I'm like, "Crime junkie," and they're like, "Wait, so you listen to murder podcasts?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like the only one at the table. I'm like, "Of course, this is me."
Yeah. They're all like growth day, of course.
Yeah, they're all like self-development, and I'm like, "I listen to murder podcasts."
I love it. Like I said, approachable, real and raw. That is Danielle to a T. I'm so grateful for you and your friendship. Thank you so much for being here. I know this episode is definitely going to help so many people, whether they're deciding if they want a family or how to run their business, or they're deciding how they're going to decide. I'm just super grateful that you came on. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. And if you want to see everything Danielle is up to, make sure you follow on Instagram at Danielle Pascente. We'll surely be the first to know, I'm sure, when the app is ready. I'm very excited about it.
Girl.
Yeah. And if you love this episode, take a screenshot, tag Danielle at Danielle Pascente, tag me at I am Jessica DeRose. Let us know what your biggest takeaways were. And as always, friends, cheers to your evolution.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I invite you to be a part of our ripple effect and share it with a friend. And please, if you feel called, take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review, and I'll be forever grateful. Until next time, cheers to your evolution.